Our last chapter of this story, which I have loved, is chapter 10, Birdie Gets the Sniffles. 3 days later, Zoe and Meep were about to have a race along the zoo path. It was just getting dark, and most of the visitors had already gone home. Ready, set, naughty Meep, you're supposed to wait until I say go, Zoe yelled, giggling as Meep sprang ahead of her. Zoe's cold was completely better now. After her adventure with Birdie and Oscar, she'd been worried that her cough and sniffles may come back worse than ever. But she felt fine, and the next morning she was ready to go back to school. "Can't catch me, Zoe, can't catch me," chattered Meep playfully, darting nimbly past some visitors who were cluttered outside the giraffe enclosure. Suddenly, the mouse lemur stopped and cocked his head to one side, listening. "What's that funny sound?" It was a very strange, squeaky, snuffling sound, and it was coming from the elephant enclosure. "What's Birdie up to now?" Zoe thought, reaching for her paw print charm and opening the gate. Inside, David was kneeling down next to Birdie, patting the tiny elephant's back reassuringly. Oscar stood close by, watching over his friend, and to Zoe's surprise, her mom and Great Uncle Horace were there too. Lucy was rummaging around in her vet bag. "It's in here somewhere," she said, and finally pulled out a silver stethoscope. She put the earpiece in and listened to Birdie's chest. "Mom, Great Uncle Horace," Zoe called, rushing in. Suddenly, she felt worried. "What is going on? Is Birdie all right?" Just at that moment, a noisy sneeze exploded from Birdie's trunk. The little elephant jumped in surprise, looking all around him. "That was the funny honking noise we heard before, Zoe," giggled Meep. "I don't think Birdie knows what a sneeze is," whispered Zoe, grinning back. Great Uncle Horace and David were chuckling too. "There's nothing to worry about, Zoe," Lucy told her, smiling as she packed her stethoscope away. "Birdie's caught a cold, just like you. It's not serious, though. He'll be back to normal in a day or two. He just needs some rest and lots of healthy food." "And perhaps the odd sandwich cookie," whispered Great Uncle Horace, winking at Zoe. "I think it's time the playful little thing went to bed," added David. "Zoe, do you want to help me tuck Birdie in?" "And then it's time for our dinner. Great Uncle Horace and Kiki are joining us tonight," Zoe's mom said. Zoe grinned. "Fantastic." Oscar and Birdie were cuddled up in their cozy shelter in a warm bed of fresh hay and grass. David had even fetched some fluffy blankets to make sure Birdie was extra snug. Zoe helped the baby elephant curl up and then covered him with the blankets so that just his head and trunk were peeking out. "Sleep tight, Birdie," Zoe whispered. "I promise you'll feel much better soon. Meep and I will come back tomorrow to see how you're feeling, and Oscar's here to take good care of you." As Zoe, Lucy, and Great Uncle Horace left the enclosure, with Kiki flying overhead and Meep scrambling in front of them, Mr. Pinch came marching up the path. "What is that honking noise?" he snapped. "I'm trying to do some very important work in my office, and I can't be disturbed," he announced, pushing past them and going into the enclosure. "I'm going to tell that naughty little elephant to keep the noise down." Great Uncle Horace chuckled as they continued walking home. "Something tells me Mr. Pinch will wish he hadn't done that," he told Zoe with his eyes twinkling. A minute later, they heard another sneeze from behind them and a huge, angry yell. Zoe bit her lips so she didn't start laughing as Mr. Pinch barged past them again. His face was red, and his usually spotless zoo manager's uniform was splattered with little drops. "Elephant snot!" he cried, marching back to his office. "Yuck!" Meep giggled so much that he almost fell over. Great Uncle Horace, Lucy, and Zoe managed to hold it in until they got back to the cottage. They rushed in, shut the door, glanced at one another, and burst out laughing. "That was so funny," gasped Lucy, shaking her head. "Ah, poor Mr. Pinch," Great Uncle Horace said with a chuckle. Zoe grinned wildly and hugged Meep. "Good old Birdie," she added happily. The rescue zoo's eager little elephant was just as mischievous as ever, but she wouldn't change him for anything. And that is the end I have loved the Little Eager Elephant book, and I can't wait to hopefully read some other ones, and we'll start a new different story tomorrow. Have a great day.